I'm Laura McCullough. Today is September 27th, 2017, and I'm here with Bill.
This is Bill Jenkins, and I'm here to interview Dr. McCullough. So I'd like to start with your background.
Okay.
So your family is originally from where? Your grandparents and parents?
My family's originally from Georgia.
Oh.
I believe my paternal grandfather is from Griffin.
Oh, okay.
I don't really know where my paternal grandmother is from.
Yeah.
She's still alive, so I could ask her. And my mom's parents are from Covington.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, at this point in my life, I really like the people to go back and learn about their family, because I'm learning about my family now, and it's fascinating.
It's amazing.
Yeah, right. So, and you grew up in what place?
I grew up in Atlanta, Metro Atlanta, in Decatur.
Oh, okay.
About 12 miles from here.
Yeah, yeah.
So not too far. Born at Piedmont, born and raised in Decatur. Lived here my whole life until I went to college. Yeah. So I am one of the few native Atlantans, even though it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah,
it's changed so much.
It has changed incredibly. My daughter went to the Atlanta Friends School.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're Quakers, so we go to our Quaker meeting houses right there in Decatur. Yeah. So we used to go there all the time, every day actually.
Yeah,
go to Decatur.
School.
Right. So, and what high school did you go to, or what elementary?
So I went to Chapel Hill Elementary, which is right down Candler, which turns to Flakes Mill.
Yeah.
I went to Chapel Hill Junior High, which is right next door, and then I went to Cedar Grove High School, which is in Ellenwood.
Oh, okay.
And it's funny because after I graduated, they redrew the line, so my brother ended up going to Southwest DeKalb, and Cedar Grove and Southwest are rival schools.
Yes.
So we had this like mini rivalry.
Right.
Even though we're 8 years apart.
Yes.
I was like, I went to Southwest, you went to Cedar Grove.
Right.
So yeah, and it's not too far from here.
So what were you thinking about in high school in terms of your career?
I wanted to be a doctor.
A physician.
A physician.
Yeah.
Right? At that age, it's like lawyer, doctor, right? Or for guys, like some sort of athlete. But I was good at science. I was reasonably good at math, and I had a passion for helping people. Actually, my AP physics teacher gave me the role of Pocahontas because he says you're always trying to help people. You seem like a healer. So I wanted to be a doctor. I looked up very much to my pediatrician, who was my physician, but also my neighbor, and sort of directed everything in my path towards that from high school up to college.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what college did you decide to go to?
So I ended up attending Vanderbilt University, which is in Nashville. And it's funny because I applied to Emory and I got in, and I applied to the other Georgia schools, UGA, and got in, applied to Harvard. And my mom was like, you don't really seriously seem to be considering Harvard. And I'm like, it's cold up there, and there's no Chick-fil-A. And when I got to Vanderbilt on a recruit visit, I saw they had Chick-fil-A at the cafeteria. So this is where I'm going. My dad was like, you're going to base your college decision on a Chick-fil-A? Yes. It was ranked 18 in the country, so it was academically rigorous, but like at the end of the day, like I'm still a kid, and if I'm not going to be with my family, at least like the comfort of having Chick-fil-A is like meaningful to me. So not a good reason to go to Vandy, but it was a good institution.
Yeah.
So, can I ask what your father did?
So my dad he worked for Equifax, and I know that's like
Equifax.
Yeah, I know. And he didn't actually work in the finance aspect. It was more development, so finding new facilities, new offices, growing the business logistically. So that's what he did. He was not an architect, but a lot of his skills were sort of like an architect. So he did that until I was like 15, probably less than that, probably like 13. And then he decided that he wanted to have his own business. So he stopped working and he opened a coin laundry. And it was located off MLK on the west side of Atlanta.
Oh.
And he purposefully wanted to have a business in that area because that was an area that was majority black, and he felt like he could give people jobs that really needed jobs and, sort of grow his business there. And so it was, I don't know, it was an interesting experience.
What years were these?
So I graduated in 01, so this must have been like 96 or 01. And I actually remember the process of him like buying a business. There were a couple of different options. He had like a uniform shop at Grady, this coin laundry, and some other business. And I remember, going to these meetings that he would have with potential, people selling the business, and sort of overhearing all that, which really sort of shaped my life and sort of my interest as a businesswoman. But yeah, it was just very interesting being at the coin laundry. I'd go with him sometimes, and sort of the people that come in and out, some of the people he had working for him, and they'd slip up and do things wrong, and I'm just like, why are they still working for you? And he's like, I believe in second chances. I'm trying to really sort of help these people out, et cetera, et cetera. So my dad was very much about advancing African Americans in the capacity that he could.
Wow.
And what's interesting, he didn't buy that uniform shop, but my uncle did, his brother. And he still runs the uniform shop. Mm-hmm. So the uniform shop at Grady is run by my uncle, and I think at Northside. So yeah, that's what my father did.
Yeah.
And did your mother have a career also?
My mom worked. She was a buyer for Macy's. She was the buyer for Macy's fine jewelry for 20 odd years, which I think it was an amazing job because she would fly sort of all over the country and the world to go to jewelry shows and, talk to vendors. And it was always funny for Christmas because they would like send her gifts, like really amazing gifts, because they're like, we want you to put our product in your store. So they were different. They had different sort of careers, I think, which gave me like a very well-rounded perspective. My dad was, we call, my brother, I say he was play, but when he was business, he was down to business. But he was just a fun dad. He didn't cook, he cleaned, but we knew when he came home, like, we were gonna have fun with him. And my mom was the one that sort of kept us on course, like, these are the things you need to be doing. But I think the balance of the two of them really worked in our house. And my brother and I are 8 years apart, so yeah, they were interesting. Yeah.
What's your mother's maiden name?
Walker.
Oh, good. Okay. Not good, but yeah, I have my father was a businessman. He had small businesses, and his partners in business were Brooks in Charleston, South Carolina, and their daughter was a buyer at Macy's.
Oh, really?
Yes, right. Yeah.
Gosh, my mom probably
so we grew up together. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So anyway, Jean Brooks was her name.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have to ask her. My mom knows everyone.
Yeah, right. That sounds like Jean.
If I go into a Macy's, they're like, "You're Loretta's daughter. We know everything about you," and I'm like, "I have no idea who you are."
Yeah. Okay, so you went to Vandy with the idea of going to medical school, and what was the experience?
So my Vanderbilt experience was very dynamic for a number of reasons. First, I've learned this about myself over the course of time. My freshman year, I didn't do anything but be a student.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, you should probably consider like picking things up because you work best when you have 100 things going on. And I was like, but I really just want to get in and focus on my work, et cetera, et cetera. And I mean, she was absolutely right. I mean, even to this day, I'm like, Mom, I have this and this and this. And she's like, you'll be fine. That's how you work best. And so I struggled my freshman year, and I'm not really even sure why. I'm not sure if it was the transition or, totally different environment or what it was. And that was complicated by the fact that my father, actually spring break of my freshman year, was diagnosed with cancer, with metastatic lung cancer. And so I was struggling, but I was still doing okay, like B- in class. And I guess they call it like biological sciences at Vanderbilt, but it's essentially just biology. My biology class, my second year in September, my father passed, And so I told them, I was like, I'm going to go home for a week. I was going to miss an assignment and a test. The assignment I had already started on, I'm like, I can, sort of turn this in early, but the test I'm going to miss because I'm going to be home for the funeral. And the instructor was very much not sympathetic at all to the situation. And he said, well, I had another student tell me that their family member passed, so you need to bring me some sort of proof. And in that moment, I was just kind of like, really? But fine, whatever. And so we followed up with an email, and he said, so there are two ways we can deal with this test. You can come back, you can make it up, or you can just drop that from your total course grade. And so I opted to drop it, was doing okay in the class the rest of the semester. And at the end, I got my final grades, and I got a D- in the class. And I'm like, how did I get a D-? Like, this makes no sense. And so when I went back and started calculating my grades, etc., I realized that the instructor never dropped the grade. I just got a zero factored into my average. And so I talked to my advisor at the time, who was a full distinguished professor in chemistry, and was trying to explain the situation. And he was just like, you can't perform like this. This is not good. It's the onus is on you, the burden is on you, and I just don't think that you're medical school material. You might want to pick something different. And so that whole experience at Vanderbilt for me, especially like freshman, first semester, sophomore, I just felt like there was no sympathy, there was no really trying to sort of understand the perspective of the student or what happened, or anybody that was really like in my corner or advocating for me. So that was really tough, and I think that just left a bad taste in my mouth at Vanderbilt. But, I sort of dealt with the passing of my dad and found things to be a part of. I started dancing for a company in Nashville. I was a part of the band. I was a feature twirler. I met my now husband. But it was a hard, tough time. And I think in part that's why I ended up going to Meharry for my master's, because you always hear about HBCUs being more nurturing, et cetera, et cetera, even though that came with its own set of problems. But I think that's what pushed me towards going towards an HBCU for advanced degrees, just because I felt like, and I don't know if it was just like small fish in a big pond kind of thing, or what it was, or maybe it was just bad luck of the people that I had interactions with, but there's not a single faculty at Vanderbilt that I could say helped shape my career or shape me as a person, which I think is unfortunate.
Yeah, and unfortunately typical of Vandy.
Yeah, exactly.
I have known many people who went to Vanderbilt, and they've had very similar experiences. There's some schools that we just don't recommend black students to go to.
And they're doing a lot to try and recruit more, and like my husband loved it, but he had a totally different experience. He's a football player, and he was the most highly recruited football player at the time. So, we're both Vandy alum, and people ask us, well, how was Vandy? He's like, it was awesome. And I'm like,
you're right. Well, that's why I was surprised by your reaction. The way you initially described it, it was positive, and most of the people that I know would not have described the experience at Vanderbilt as being positive.
Yeah, I think looking back on it, I can appreciate it for what it was. But as a student there, I definitely was not very happy. And I do think HBCUs are more supportive, allows you to grow. I went to an HBCU because that's what my family did. I went to Morehouse because that's what we do. Right.
And I hated Morehouse the whole 4 years I was there, because it was so intense and so competitive. It was just crazy. But I was supported, even though I always thought everybody else was smarter than me. And until the final grades came, I thought everybody was smarter than me until the final grades came. But they actually encouraged me and arranged me to come to Emory in 1967 in biometry, which was at the Upper Gate House, which I don't even know if it existed. It's still here. Oh, okay. Yeah, and my experience at Emory was incredibly negative. Yeah, so, luckily Georgetown opened the way, and I had a much a more positive experience in Georgetown because the number of black students went from 3 to 36.
Right.
So I thought, you know,
it does make a difference.
Yes.
At Vanderbilt, there were a fair number of black students.
Yeah.
Admittedly, half of them
at where
at Vanderbilt, but half of the males were also athletes in some capacity.
Right. Yeah.
And I think as black students, we did sort of rally around each other. But still, you know, when you're dealing with maybe 5% of the student population, you're just not that critical, and you know your concerns just aren't heard. And so I just had to find other avenues, other outlets, mentorship in different areas. Like my artistic director for the company I danced for became a huge mentor of mine. And she was the one that was just like, you're smart, you're bright, you should continue, you know, to pursue whatever your dreams are. But it's just unfortunate that didn't come from Vandy.
What company was that? The dance company?
Rhythm and Roots Performance Company.
Who?
Rhythm and Roots.
Rhythm and Roots.
And I think they did their last show a couple of years ago. But from 2002, actually right when my dad passed, until probably 2011 or 12, even when I was at UNC, I was still dancing with them. I was flying back and forth because it was such an integral part of me that I needed that. And it was great being a part of that sort of program because we got to dance and open for like amazing people like Kirk Whalum, who's Whitney Houston's saxophonist. We opened for him 7 or 8 times. I got to know him really well. Maya Angelou, when she did her final tour, we got to open for her, and then, you know, R&B, hip-hop artists like Busta Rhymes. And so that was a really, I think, good experience about being at Vanderbilt, was that particular organization gave me access to do some other things that I felt really passionate about, and just outlets to be able to dance and choreograph.
You would be amazed how many black epidemiologists, how many of us danced.
Really?
Yes. It's absolutely amazing. I have no explanation for this whatsoever.
I've noticed that there are a lot of people that are artistically inclined. So whether it's visual art or performing arts, dance or music or something like that. But I didn't know about dance.
It's amazing. Well,
then I'm in good company then.
And you're much better than the rest of us, I'm sure.
I don't know about that.
Well, there was one guy in New York. He went to Juilliard. He was very good. But
He's probably takes the
So after Vanderbilt, you went to Meharry. And what was your focus of your work at Meharry?
So I went to Meharry to get my master's, and so this is kind of how it went. At Vanderbilt, I didn't know anything about epidemiology, public health. Like Vanderbilt didn't have any classes in that regard, but they had this one class called the History of Medicine. And so my senior year, I had done all of my required things. I was like, this class seems really interesting. I want to be a physician. Maybe I should take it. And in that class, there was one lecture on John Snow and the Broad Street Pump. And sitting in there and listening to that lecture, and then really sort of doing some soul searching about what it is I really wanted to do, I felt like that aligned more closely with sort of my interest than like the biologic and chemical intricacies of, you know, organic chemistry, you know. And so I applied to med school, didn't get in. I got into Meharry like post-bac. But I also applied for master's programs. And
what master's program in Meharry were you applying for?
Master's of Science in Public Health.
They
have a master's program, as does Morehouse. So they're not, at the time, they weren't CEF accredited, which I didn't know until I got in there, which was another issue. But there are several HBCUs that have accredited now programs in public health. And so Meharry is now one of them. So I applied to that program and got in, and basically said, you know, I'm not saying that I'm not going to pursue my MD, because I had another opportunity to take the MCAT. I actually did well on it, but I felt like I owed it to myself to at least explore this other avenue that I had just learned about as a second semester senior in college. And so I went to Meharry, and we had a small class. It was an N of 8. And they were all women, and they were all African American. And I was like, how is this going to work? 8 African American females. And they're, love Meharry, but there were just so many other things to deal with. The financial piece, you're not SEEP accredited piece, like all these things that we just rallied together. And we became each other's support system. We studied together. We put on public health programs. We drafted a thesis manual for the school. We drafted sort of what they needed to get accredited. And they actually used that material in 2008 after I had graduated and applied and got accredited.
Yeah.
So I like to think that we were a significant sort of push in Meharry getting their initial accreditation with SEEF. And, I was in the dean's office every other week. I was talking to the president.
Who was the dean? Who?
So the dean was Fatima Lima, Maria Fatima Lima, is that right? Yeah, Maria de Fatima Lima was the dean of the graduate school.
Yes.
And William Washington?
Yes.
Was the...
Bill Washington.
Yeah, he was the director.
Head of the public health program. Yeah.
And then Wayne O'Reilly was the president.
Right.
And so they all knew me.
Yeah.
Because I was constantly like, would you allow your med school to not be accredited? Would you allow your dental school to not be accredited? I mean, we are accredited by SACS, but not SEEF accreditation. And I just was like, this is not working. This is not.